Welcome to Day Zero Update for December 15th, 2024. I'm your host, Chris Elogi.
I'm Brandon Perkins.
And I'm Dan Red Victoria.
And yeah, we've got a big week this week of news.
Oh yeah.
The Game Awards happened, and a bunch of stuff got announced there, and some stuff that is bringing back franchises you might not have expected, as well as a bunch of other news happening, especially more developer layoffs and such.
Yep.
Unfortunately, as the year ends. But we also got a few other things happening, and yeah, we got a decent amount of stuff to talk about this week. So, yeah, before we get to that, we'll talk about what we've been playing, and I'll kick it off here. Been playing some Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, not too much of it, but like about an hour or so of it. Because I also watched the first three movies just to kind of get into the vibes of where this is set, which I believe is between first two movies. And so yeah, like the very beginning of the game is basically the intro to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you're kind of going through the jungle to get to the tomb, and going through the same traps and all that they do at the beginning of that movie, and running into the finding the treasure and swapping it for the bag of sand. Even has you like let some out, try to gauge the weight, though you don't have any way of telling that yourself. It's just what it does. Then you get to the escape and all that, get betrayed, and that's kind of a fun little sequence. But then Indiana wakes up and realizes he's in his office with Brody, as they've been awoken by some sounds of people breaking into the college, the Marshall College, which I didn't realize until this game that is an archaeology college. That they have an actual museum. You hear, Brody and Indiana Jones in the movies talk a lot about, it belongs to the museum and all this, and it's like I didn't know it was actually on like the school grounds and all that. But you get to following the tracks of stuff that's been knocked over until you find this big man in the museum wing of the school, and I didn't realize it was Tony Todd, very large man who beats the crap out of you, out of Indiana Jones, and leaves you kind of there to as you're passed out. Essentially, you wake up in the morning with Brody finding you and kind of examining like what happened, what he was taking, because he was chanting some Latin, something like that. And so like the first little puzzle you get is to pick up the little display stuff to put back in their displays and figure out what he took and sort of where that might lead you. And that ends up taking you to the Vatican. So you kind of get warning from a friend that you want to avoid going there directly. So you're kind of meeting them on the outskirts of the Vatican, which is where I'm at. I've been kind of poking around stealthily and trying to take out enemies, which they give you tons of tools and weapons and such to knock people out with, including I've knocked out them with like two different kinds of guitars, and a violin, which all produce very nice thuds as you take them out. They made that part of it very, very good. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I've knocked out all the fascists because this is Italy, so these are not Nazis yet. They are Mussolini's thugs, and even in the subtitles they call them like Fascist 1 and Fascist 2 when they're talking to each other, kind of thing. So I've basically been knocking them out and throwing them into piles of bodies, taking screenshots of that because that's fun to see a pile of fascists. So that's been fun. And there is like some interesting stuff they have here where you have like your Last of Us style like bottles all around to throw and distract them if you want. Um, there are dogs that can attack you, and like the nice thing they do is that you can use your whip to uh, essentially just make noise and scare them off, and they go run away.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get attacked by one, unfortunately, because I was trying to figure that out. I did the whip crack, but I guess it was too early, so the dog like grabs onto your arm. But luckily, at least the difficulty I have a bunch of bandages and such. You also pick up food
Mm-hmm.
that goes between fruit and like bread, because I think the fruit gives you extra stamina bars. Because everything you do, as far as like climbing and punching and carrying bodies and stuff, uses up that stamina bar. Lucky you can just like drop it if you're going too far. You're gonna run out of stamina and kind of just wait for it to fill back up and carry some more. So it's not too punishing, but I believe you'll probably get some skill upgrades, which I think go through books. You find books that you spend your adventure points, which you get from finding notes and all that kind of stuff all over the place. And that stuff kind of fills up the journal, which I believe you use for puzzles. But where I'm at, I'm just skulking around as Indiana Jones and taking out um, fascists. And now I'm at the point where I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing next. So that's been that game. I got all the music. Indiana Jones looks and sounds pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There's some weirdness where I picked up books and his thumb does not look like a real thumb on a hand because it like uh, sticks out in a weird way that unless he somehow is able to uh, dislocate his thumb at
Mm.
will, it just looks weird. But for the most part, everything looks what you expect. Um, so there's that. I got Naiad this week that came out. This
Mm-hmm.
has been a game that's been in the works for a few years now. I forget what we saw it at a showcase for. It might have been a state of play or something. But basically, you are a naiad, which, if you don't know, is like a water humanoid creature that sort of hangs out under the surface of the water. When humans are nearby, they sort of go invisible, and you are kind of just one that spawns in this watery area, and you're kind of going upriver
Mm.
to explore, and you along the way kind of befriend animals and help them out. One of the first things you'll do is like find a lost duckling and guide it to its mom or dad. They don't really specify, but you're guiding it to its parent. Um, Things like that. Collecting fish that hang out with you, follow you around. You get birds that you want to help out and guide to the branches where they want to be at. Butterflies, frogs, deer, rabbits, all these kind of different creatures to usually just gather them up in a single place, and you get some bonus. I don't know.
Mm.
It kind of looks like you get some like experience orbs, but they don't ever show anything telling you like what that is. So that's a little bit of a weird aspect of it. But yeah, it's a fun chill time, and sort of as you're exploring, going down river, um, you're kind of running into more and more influence of humans.
Mm-hmm.
Where the first instance I saw is them sort of kind of chop down some trees, and you manage to find some bees nearby, and you have them go around and sting the humans and scare them off, kind of thing. So uh, there's some fun bits to it. It's very much an environmental game as well as one where you're just kind of hanging out, having some fun, and just kind of chilling out to a beautiful nature scene all over the place. You'll find some secret paths to
Mm-hmm.
go to some other areas and do some stuff. When I found the rabbits and like figured out I could push this log around, they would get on it and like try to get them all in the same place. That didn't seem to do anything.
Mm.
Um, so it does not hold your hand on any of that stuff, but definitely could be a little bit better in explaining some of that. But it also lets you kind of fast travel around to the different areas that you've been, so that you can catch, do the things you missed. Because it can be easy to miss some things, but yeah, it's a very cool game that I wanted to check out. you want one of those. Let's see. Also got 3D Don't Move, Mr. Robot. This is an arcadey game. The originals were on like PlayStation and all that. They eventually did like a deluxe version of that on Steam, and then now they've moved to make like a 3D version where everything is a 3D model. You can have your camera moving around. They also have some preset positions you can switch between if you want. But it's an arcade game where basically you're trying to avoid all the obstacles and enemies that are going around on the track on the field that you're on, and basically avoiding like spiky balls, missiles, and some stuff that has homing capabilities. And the way that you take them out is by running over this fruit that explodes. And if you have, a series of fruit close enough to each other, they will chain reaction and blow up a good, chunk of the playfield and get you extra score bonuses and multipliers and all that kind of stuff. Pretty simple concept, but it is very effective. Yeah, it's really well done. Had some issues where there were some audio bits that were just extremely loud, but none of the audio options let you turn those down. Like they weren't affected by it. But the devs seem to have fixed it in the last couple days, so that's good. That's nice to see. And yeah, you get coins as you're taking out bunches of enemies, and use that to buy cosmetic stuff for your little character, which can be skins, hats, glasses, feet, or changing the color of your character. Nothing really too complicated, but yeah, it's a nice, simple little game. It's only on Steam right now, but I assume it'll come to the other consoles at some point. And the other ones are the recent NSO editions for NES and Game Boy. Tetris NES. This is the first time I played this version of the game, and it's a fine game of Tetris. Solid, works pretty well all around. The look of it's not great, because that's I believe this is the one that has just two color schemes at a time, and then after you take out enough lines or whatever, it changes that color scheme. It kind of smartly has most of the blocks one color, and then the shapes that are just alternate versions of the others are a different color. So the L and J are different colors, and the S and the Z blocks are different colors. But yeah, the music is bad on that game. It's your very basic public domain music, but it's just not very good. And when you hear it for repeating for the length of an entire marathon run, a good marathon run, it just gets very tiring to hear. It's just annoying in a way. It's just like, this doesn't have the charm of even the Game Boy game. The music on that is really good. So yeah, that's a decent Tetris game, but yeah, with the NSO, the basic tier, you have access to at least two better ones on there, both on the Game Boy, and yeah, so alongside this, they secretly added Tetris DX, which was I guess a period in the late 90s for the Game Boy where they kind of remade or jazzed up a couple of the classic games they were porting to the Game Boy, and they decided to do that with Tetris, to make Tetris DX that is made for the color Game Boy. So they got a bunch of colors that I would describe the color scheme there as 90s neon, because all the blocks are very much like, hey, here's a very bright blue, very bright red, and yellow, and purple, and all this, all kind of neonish colors that kind of just don't go well together at a certain point once you got a full field of blocks. I think the long block looks like it's a hairy leg, so the color there just doesn't work quite right for it. But yeah, the music is very good because it's the same guy that did the music for the original Tetris on Game Boy, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Since this was a fully Nintendo-made Tetris game, whereas the original was made by Bulletproof Software, who made most of the Tetris games at that point, outside of the NES and Game Boy. This Game Boy game has a couple extra modes. There's like a 3-minute mode to kind of get a quick session in, and one that's it's like a versus CPU mode, which you don't see the other field, so it's just kind of nebulous bar that you see filling up, I guess, as their field is supposed to be filling up with your junk that you're sending over. But it's still easy to kind of mess that up and lose. Even on I was playing on some of the easiest CPU difficulties, and that was all right. I still think the original Tetris Game Boy is much better than this because visually it's just a little bit jarring, and it has a weird issue. It must be intentional because essentially the blocks do not come down aligned the way they do when they're set. So you see the block is like a pixel or two lower than it's supposed to be, and then as it sets, it's gets realigned correctly. It just looks very janky the way they do it. This is the era of Tetris where they were kind of getting a little looser on how the controls were on these kind of games. So there's a bug in this specific version where you can bring the blocks back up. If you spin them around on the walls, they will just climb back up. So if you have issues with placement or whatever, you can kind of fudge your way out of it. For I think every type of block except for the O block, the big square. That's a fun little factoid there for that game. But yeah, it's a solid game, but I think the original Game Boy game is a better one. But for this one, they have leaderboards and all that, and you can actually set profiles, like up to 3 profiles. So as you play as your profile, you don't have to sit there and re-enter your name over and over again, like you do on Tetris NES. So, yeah, it's a solid game. Then I played some Donkey Kong Land 3, which, like the third Donkey Kong Country game, features Dixie Kong and Kiddy Kong doing their thing, and yeah, it's another solid one of these. I do just find it funny that the Game Boy Color mode on all 3 of these games, I believe, they just color any pixels, any like characters or items that are going to move brown, and everything else stays the same kind of green color, classically green gray color. So it's just like, oh, this game is not designed to be played on like a 20 some inch screen or a 50-inch screen or anything like that. It was designed for a little Game Boy screen. So the character models and such just do not look great in this form, which is not too surprising. And the stages are all fine for what they are. This one has more maze-like stages. Like they wanted to make them more complex to be more difficult, I guess. And since Dixie has the ability to kind of float around the screen with her hairspin, that kind of lets you kind of skip a bunch of areas. Kitty's move is to roll. You can kind of just roll into enemies to take them out. But yeah, in comparison to Country 3, it's not as good because there the characters have combo moves that they can do. They can grab onto each other to carry both characters away, or you can pick up characters to throw them at enemies, or across gaps or whatever. So there's like a wealth of more moves that the Game Boy just can't do, that they wouldn't. I don't think they would do until they actually remade them for the Game Boy Advance. So, but yeah, they're all solid games, but just not ones that really deserve to be played like on their own terms. I would just suggest save states and use your rewinds to avoid any annoying moments where you're not sure like what you're doing, because it loves to have enemies that pop off the screen and are immediately about to kill you as you're moving around in a way that's just kind of very annoying. But yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been playing. So how about you, Brandon?
Well, I did go back to play Astrobot a little bit, and we'll be talking about why that is in a little bit. But other than that, I mostly have been still dedicating myself to the Demon Souls remake, and I've made considerable progress since last time. I've now beaten 2 different archdemons, the Dragon God and the Storm King, which is the and both of them are kind of strangely kind of alike because they're both kind of gimmick bosses. The Dragon God in particular is essentially you have to find these 2 like enormous harpoon guns to fire at him. That'll weaken him significantly so you can take him out with a few hits at the very end. But the thing is there's really no room for error because the part of the way that you get to these harpoon guns, there are these huge, long corridors with columns and openings where the Dragon God can get into to attack you, and getting from A to B is kind of difficult because there's all this like debris that you have to destroy before you can get there. And there's a couple of different ways to do it, but I specifically just sort of used Magic Arrow to sort of take them out from a distance so I could hide behind a column and stay safely hidden in order to get rid of it. That is surprisingly more difficult than you would think it would be because the columns are kind of it's kind of like play a game of like, does he see me or does he not? Generally you have to like watch his eyes because if they're yellow, he doesn't see you. If it's red, he sees you and he's getting ready to attack. And like his attacks are like one hit instant kill. So not fun. But I ended up, doing it after a few tries, and yeah, that was like the first archdemon I managed to kill, which meant I could go past the archstone where the Tower Knight is and go into the third part of the castle area. But I also I've done a bunch of others. I killed the Flame Lurker, Leechmonger, and the old hero, and all those guys. And as for like the Storm King, and basically the Storm King is basically like this giant, enormous storm beast that has these smaller storm beasts that sort of swarm around it, and not particularly difficult as far as like fighting it, because all I had to do was sort of hide in this corner of this like dilapidated house and wait for the storm ruler to fly over and just shoot arrows at it. Not terribly difficult. But yeah, so now I've the boss that's really been giving me just a massive amount of trouble is the Man-Eaters. The Man-Eater is in the Latria area. In order to fight these things, basically they're these enormous like monkey dudes that have like snakes for tails that will occasionally like envenom them, so it'll give them like poison attacks. And they're like very fast, they're very spastic, and they have this like jumping charge move that they will do more than once in ways that are extremely annoying. And what's even worse is that once the one that you're fighting gets down to about half health, a second one of these guys will suddenly show up behind him, and suddenly you have to fight 2 of these guys. And that's bad enough on itself, but the fact that you're basically fighting on a corridor, like a long bridge, means you don't really have a lot of area to move. The Flame Lurker was difficult, but I was able to beat him by just sort of kiting him around the room and hitting him with magic. I don't really have that luxury this time around. And I also tried to fight the Penetrator a couple of times, and he's like the quote-unquote archdemon figure that you fight for the castle area. He's incredibly difficult. Fortunately, before I went to bed last night, I went and freed Bior and Yuria the Witch, and Bior apparently is supposed to help out in that boss battle. So hopefully I'll be able to beat him tonight. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've still got kind of a little bit of ways to go in that game, but I'm getting pretty quickly to the end. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you, Dan Rib?
Yeah, it's been a mix of different things. I've been getting us ready for our top 10 feature this year, so there's that. And then I went to the Game Awards, but I'll go ahead and talk about that once we're on the Game Awards. As for what I've been playing Anton Blast. This game came out on Steam a couple weeks ago, and then Switch, I believe, on Friday. And yeah, for those not familiar with this game, it's an indie game, and it takes a lot from Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower was this high octane platformer that combines both like just chaos and speed. And if I were to compare it to anything, it would be WarioWare, or not WarioWare, Wario Land 4. Those games are also like, just chaos. You use Wario to just bash through walls. And yeah, this game is along those same lines, and it's very 90s. A lot of the colors are very much neon aesthetic. A bunch of colors that really shouldn't go together, but do. There's a little bit of a fairy tale kind of component to it. The game begins with like, oh, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the reddest one of all, and stuff like that. And just a lot of the jokes and humor are, I don't want to say crude, but definitely on the rude side, like something that you'd see on like MTV or Nickelodeon back in the 90s. But yeah, it's really fun so far. I haven't put too much time into it. But yeah, it's definitely been a solid play. I've also been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Nowhere near as far as Chris is. This game is really interesting, mainly because, one of the things that I talked about in the past was I didn't know how I felt about the game being in first person. When it comes to Indiana Jones, I'm not really interested in being him, but, I just want to be able to, like, enjoy it as it goes on. And it does sort of do that, when you go into cutscenes, it'll just go ahead and jump back and just show you the story that way. The first section of the game is literally the introduction to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that was pretty cool to see, especially since I don't really have a big nostalgia factor for Indiana Jones. I watched them as a kid, but I don't remember very much. I remember trying to watch a few years ago, and I was surprised to see Indy in some desert town just shoot some guy in the face, and I was like, wait a minute. This is Disney owned, so it's crazy. But yeah, of course it wasn't Disney owned way back when, but yeah, that was definitely something that startled me, and eventually I'll give it more time. But for now, I'm enjoying the game for what it is. Just finished this part in the museum where a whole bunch of stuff was stolen, and this puzzle pretty much requires you to just put the right artifacts in the right exhibits, and yeah, it's been pretty interesting so far. I don't really have much to say about the combat just because I've only fought like two guys, but using the fists was a pretty fun thing to do. And aside from that, I've been playing a whole lot of Switch stuff since I've had travel. So I've jumped back into Emil the Smiling Man. This is a game I should have finished a long time ago, but it just hasn't turned out that way. But I'm like deep enough where I really think I can go ahead and finish this by the end of the year. I've gotten to a point where I believe I'm pretty close to finding out who the Smiling Man is. So that's been rather interesting, and it's really cool just seeing how well and how dark the write is. I believe this is Nintendo's only first mature game, so it's definitely interesting just seeing how that goes. And this came from the creator of Metroid, and it's a passion project for him. So I'm happy to see it continue to succeed. I've been playing a little bit of Balatro. Not much to say there. It's Balatro. And I've also started this indie game that was announced during the Wholesome Direct during the Game Awards presentation. It's called Pine: A Story of Loss. This game is designed to be finishable within one sitting. But yeah, I just started it. For what I've played so far, it's definitely a visually astounding game. But aside from that, I don't have much to say about it yet, but I will when I come back next. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I do want to mention that I finally got my hands on a PS5 disc drive. So I'll definitely be back into it this week when I'm less busy.
All right. Yeah, let's get to some news here.
Mhm.
It is time for more subscription stuff. As we got a new lineup of game catalog stuff coming for PS Plus extra and premium members. With some interesting games here. Let's see. For extra and premium, there is, let's see, for PS5 and PS4, Sonic Frontiers. You can finally check out the most recent big Sonic game, 3D Sonic game that does a lot of interesting stuff. I won't say it's necessarily a great game, but I think it's an interesting experiment in trying
Yeah.
to kind of do for Sonic 3D stuff in the way that Breath of the Wild kind of shook up things for Zelda games.
Mm.
And it definitely has some nice ideas, but also some stuff that doesn't work as well because of the way that Sonic tends to control. That doesn't necessarily work well in this kind of format, but it's at least got different vibes to it than you usually expect out of his 3D games. So there you go for that. For PS5, there's Forspoken, the game that was hugely controversial for some obvious reasons, but also other reasons that are just shitty. But
Yeah.
you can check it out, no strings attached, and that's pretty good. I'll probably check that out, especially because it's a game that looks really nice. So,
Yep.
there you go for that. For PS4, Rabbids Party of Legends. If you need a party game for the holidays, you could probably try this at least once. Then when people say it sucks, go something else. But that's at least worth a try. Let's see, for PS5 and PS4, WRC Generations, another rally game from the WRC series. That this is before Bethesda, Codemasters took over, and EA took over the license. So, yeah, that looks like it's probably a solid one of those. For PS5 and PS4, Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. This is a very cool Metroid-y kind of game, but featuring sort of a diesel punk aesthetic, and yeah, one of the early games from their kind of Heroes project of getting more Chinese developed games onto PSN.
Yep.
And this is a very cool game.
Yeah.
I'd say very much in the vein of like maybe a more melee focus, like Shadow Complex. A lot of its vibes there. Definitely worth checking out if you have not done so. For PS5 and PS4, Jurassic World Evolution 2, the second of the park management games. So you can get some more dinosaur haranguing going on. Enjoy how much the chaos unfolds. So yeah, there you go. And for PS5 and PS4, Coffee Talk, the game that's is a very chill sort of narrative adventure game about serving coffee to people and listening to their stories and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And they got the second one on here, episode 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly. So you can go right into that. I don't believe they're very long games, maybe a few hours each. So pretty solid experience there. And for PS5 and PS4, Space for the Unbound. Yeah, that's another kind of narrative adventure game. As you're just hanging out in late 90s rural Indonesia, dealing with the relationship between a boy and a girl that happen to have supernatural powers, as you do, facing the end of the world and all that. So yeah, that's a fun time to have. Let's see, for PS4, Phogs, Phogs. This is one of those local co-op kind of games of playing as a, let's say, a cat dog like creature that's two dogs instead. Where you kind of have one long elongated body, but you got heads that are dogs that are doing stuff, barking, biting people, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, fun little thing there. For PS5, PS4, Biped. This is another one of those games that can be played in co-op. You can control the two characters yourself in solo play. But yeah, that's a neat little game. And that seems to be it for the extra and premium stuff. Just for premium, some of these games came out a little earlier. They're available now. Sly 2 Band of Thieves for PS4 and PS5. That's the second game in the Sly series that is very good. Takes the kind of linear stealth gameplay that the original had and kind of puts it in a bunch of hub areas, essentially. It's not open world, but it's kind of bigger areas that you can explore and look around for enemies and collectibles and all that kind of stuff. And then they added Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves as well. So yeah, now you can play through the whole trilogy for that. Then they also added Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy.
Yep.
A fantastic 3D platformer, one of the best around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if you owned the original on the PS4 when they released those, you get this for free. It's cross-buy, so all you have to do is just grab it and download it. It'll be a better emulation. And yeah, it has all the rewind and all that to it, so you can play it and not worry about taking chances on things. But that's just a fantastic little game that I really enjoyed. It was really impressive when it came out in 2001, because it's like, okay, after Super Mario 64, here's a game that has no load times. It's just fully big areas to explore. You don't, pull out any load screens. Don't have to have a hub world like Super Mario 64 had. To other areas, you just kind of go through these long corridors between areas that are kind of little challenge things as you're riding vehicles between them. But otherwise, there's no real load times or anything there. But yeah, that's a great little game. And then the PSVR 2 game they've added here for premium is Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Enhanced Edition. So that's one of those Star Wars VR FPS games. Where you're a droid repair technician. So you're hanging out Batu. This is in the sequel trilogy. So yeah, doing all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, that's your lineup. Some pretty solid stuff there to check out.
Yeah, definitely a really solid month as far as added value to the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium options. For me, the main things that I want to get my hands on are Forspoken. I know that one got less than stellar reviews, but when I played the demo, it wasn't anything I hated, and I definitely wanted to dive in further. So I'll probably jump into that when there's time. I also highly recommend both Coffee Talk games. They're not long, but they're not short either. I think they average around like 5 to 10 hours each, the second one being longer than the first. And the thing with this game, I don't know if either of you played it, but like as you go through the motions, like there's like this secret where you learn about like yourself, or rather like the character you're taking control of. And it actually has you sort of like beat the game again. That's not something I've ever had interest in doing, but it's definitely something to think about as far as like just appreciation for where everyone's coming from with this, because part of this is like there's one character who you're connected with that you don't really want to be, and it's just funny seeing that happen. I also want to throw out a recommendation there for A Space for the Unbound. This was a game that I thoroughly enjoyed last year, much in the vein of games like A Night in the Woods, as well as Until Then, which is going to be in my top 10 this year. Spoilers. But yeah, and then like a lot of the other retro stuff, like the Sly games, I bought the collection. I believe it was on PS3, and I never got around to finishing those. And I also had Jak and Daxter on the PS4 and didn't finish that either. So, if there was like some dead time, these were games I'd definitely be interested in. So yeah, it's a good month.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good batch of games to check out there. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, for subscription news, as I mentioned, NES Tetris was added to the NES app for Nintendo Switch Online, as well as they added a nice little surprise of Tetris DX for the Game Boy Color that you can play in the Game Boy app. So you got some more Tetris there. Unfortunately, these are not games that are part of the Tetris Forever collection, where they would be a great fit alongside the stories they have about how they came about. So, but yeah, that's
Mm.
that's that. There's also a little bit of cool video with Alexei Pajitnov giving you a little uh, heads up on the cool stuff there as he's talking
Mm.
about the anniversary of Tetris and all that. So that's a fun little video there. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, the other thing that's happened this past week is Astrobot, the dev team at Team Asobi announced that they had a new update coming out, Winter
Mm-hmm.
Wonder. That came out I think on the 12th.
Yep.
That adds a new area to explore that's winter themed,
Mm-hmm.
with a handful of new characters to collect and all that. So
Yep.
yeah, so if you have the game, definitely worth checking that out and having some more fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I am absolutely excited about this. I haven't gotten a chance to fire it up yet, but I just love winter themed levels or holiday themed levels. I remember going back to Freeze Easy Peak and Banjo Kazooie, and I'm sure the Winter Wonder update is going to have a whole lot of whimsical fun. And
Oh yeah.
Astrobot is just fantastic. I don't know if I think Brandon, you already started some of this, right? Are you enjoying it?
Oh, I already finished it.
Oh, you already finished it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it much in the vein of the previous other galaxies, or is it?
It's more of like a single level.
Oh, it's a single level. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
it's a single level. There's about 7 bots that you can find. There's also a bunch of like new skins for the flyer. There's also a couple of like new costumes you can get for them. And yeah, there's a couple places to explore. It uses basically all the various like abilities and stuff that he gets over the game. But yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Looks like it's a great start to the holidays again.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Yeah,
also came out pretty much at the right time because Astrobot ended up winning Game of the Year.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So there's that. We'd have one new thing here from outside of the Game Awards stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The team behind Chained Echoes announced that they have DLC coming called Ashes of Elrant
Mm-hmm.
for next year. So that's something you can keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like it takes you to a new land. Set right before the final fight of Chained Echoes, so you can play that sort of during the campaign before you finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fight 40 new monsters and bosses. Listen to 15 new tracks by their composer, and it also has fishing stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm hoping that we get the final date out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Chained Echoes is a game that I missed out on when it came out. I believe it was 2 years ago, or was it
Yep.
last year? I don't remember, but yeah, I have it. I just never got around to finishing it, and maybe this will, you know, bring my fancy back to it. Because like the
Mm-hmm.
main thing with these DLCs is, um, sometimes they're better played like when the game is fresh, or sometimes you got to go back like after the credits. And yeah, I don't know where this fits, but I'm looking forward to trying it out as a more complete package.
yeah. I would say probably of the indie JRPGs of recent memory that's probably the
One of the
best
better
combat
ones.
systems I've
Yeah.
seen in one of those. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very fun kind of one that gets you engaged in less than the just hit X, attack, 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 dead, attack, attack, dead. We're done.
Mm.
Okay, a lot of the classic style do that, so we're just kind of mindless. But that
Mm.
one very much wants you engaged at all times and does a good job of doing that. So yeah,
Mm.
there's that. Let's get to some industry news. This is a lot
Mm-hmm.
of negative industry news. First up here, itch.io got temporarily taken down for a good portion of a day, thanks to Funko and their tool they licensed, an AI tool called Brand Shield
Mm.
that's supposed to protect your brand from like phishing and other kind of nefarious stuff. But this seemed to be a false flag from it, as the um, as Itch said here, Brand Shield created some bogus phishing report to our registrar, who ignored our response and just disabled the domain. Um, yeah, and described the software as trash as a result.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying also for transparency, we did take the disputed page down as soon as we got the notice because it's not worth fighting stuff like that. Regardless, our registrar's automated system likely kicked to disable the domain since no one read our confirmation or removal. And yeah, the co-founder of Itch also offered more context in a post on Hacker News and said the phishing reported filed by Funko and Brand Shield related to a fan page for a video game called Funko Fusion, which is based on the Funko Pop toy line. Yeah, I guess somebody just had a fan page that had some links for the main websites and places to buy the game and screenshots of it. That this Brand Shield tool decided was unauthorized use of their trademark, and so needed to have it taken down. Um, and yeah, just like automatically sends a report to the registrar, and seem like they're as I say here, the Brand Shield software is probably instructed to eradicate all unauthorized use of their trademarks, so they sent reports independently to our host and registrar complaining or claiming there was fraud and phishing going on, likely to cause escalation instead of doing the expected DMCA cease and desist because of this. I honestly think they're the malicious actor in all of this. I think brand the Brand Shield people came out and was like, well, this is not our fault. I don't think they have the quote here, but I did see it. I was like, this is not our fault because this is the registrar's fault. And it's like, no, your software is the one that created this, the request to have it taken down and all that and caused this situation in the first place. Versus just sending a typical cease and desist that they would have complied with because it's just one page of nothing material. So yeah, that's a whole thing, and they offered up a means for people that know how to do it to access the website directly versus the URL. So, but luckily it came back a little bit later in the day, and yeah, that's a fun thing there. So, yeah, kind of just a shitty situation, and sort of the way that some of these AI tools are being used to harass small websites and such. Because yeah, Itch is a website where developers or really anybody that creates an account can kind of create their own page that there's this like place to just post your assets, your game, your demo stuff. People do for all sorts of things. You can also kind of use it like the classic GeoCities type of thing and make your own website there of sorts if you want. Not the most efficient way to do it, but that's a whole thing. So yeah, there you go. Fun times for Itch. Luckily they're okay now, so no real worries. But yeah, let's see here. Yeah, we had some fun in the IGN sphere of websites, as a number of people have been subject to what they call soft layouts or buyouts. Essentially, where they are looking to get rid of X amount of people, and they offer a number of people like an option to essentially voluntarily leave with specific payment numbers for a buyout, and a number of people do that because you're more likely to get a substantial amount of money and whatever other stuff they may be offering, like an extension on healthcare and all that for the time being, versus just waiting for hard layoffs and just being told to get the hell out. That kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I believe GameIndustry.biz is now down to one full-time person, as their editor-in-chief left, deputy editor and head of games B2B have all left. One full-time employee, and I believe probably a decent amount of part-time employees. And that's disappointing because that is a website that is a historical gaming industry website that reports on essentially the trade news of here's positive and negative industry news, what's going on with these developers, hiring X people or laying off people, or here's this new tools that this company announced for devs and all this kind of stuff. as well as other things. But it's one of those kind of important things. But being under Ziff Davis, they don't really care about that. They care about the money, them making money. A number of people have left IGN, including Kat Bailey, I believe, is one of the bigger names there. As well as Humble itself, not the Humble Bundle people, but the Humble staff overall. Have had other, um, have had a number of people as well leave. So yeah, kind of having this whole gamer network they purchased earlier this year, and have kind of seen fit to trim as many people as they can. And I'm sure at some point we'll like to get AI working to create articles on there that are effectively free to employ, with maybe some minor AI, cool person to make sure the articles are uh, good enough. But usually you can tell when that stuff happens because they're oftentimes nonsense articles. But yeah, there you go for some more disappointing news in the media side of the industry.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. I've also heard from people at IGN, won't name who, that they've also closed their San Francisco office. Although the main reason why they did that is because not a whole lot of people were coming in. They were a hybrid space, and they've, for the most part, just decided to work from home. But yeah, like losing people such as like Kat Bailey, among others. She's someone who worked at both IGN and GamesIndustry.biz. It's rough. Media is absolutely difficult, and then seeing all of these hostile takeovers and not really seeing people or not really seeing these companies understand the restructure is making no sense. We've seen IGN enact a union. I don't know if that's actually done anything to help anybody there because we've seen people get fired from it anyway. And yeah, it's an entire mess, and it's sad to see it. Like IGN, like them or not, they are the tops in this business, and you would think they're untouchable, and that's definitely not the case. Like we're living in an era now where sites are just closing down left and right, and it leaves people up to rely on the network that they found, working on these sites, whether it be starting their own Patreons or doing different things, and it's just tough to see, especially like uh, going to their events and going to the JW Marriott after the Game Awards and seeing more and more people laid off. It's just a sad story all around.
Yeah, it's a real sign of how healthy the media side of the industry is, where there really aren't that many full-time positions there.
Nope.
You have a lot of people going off and doing either a worker-owned site, which probably does fine for a while, unless you hit it really big, or you do a Patreon as an individual to stream or produce articles in like a Medium or other sort of blogging software, newsletter style things. There's not really many avenues to go unless you have the name to justify that stuff. Otherwise, the average person writing is likely to have to find other avenues for employment, either outside the industry or to move over to the dev side. And yeah, it just leaves a huge hole of things that people need, but not that people act like they don't, in the way of needing coverage of games and all that. Because you can get that from your favorite streamer or YouTuber, and they definitely don't take money from publishers to look the other way on certain things when they get codes and all that, for their sponsored videos and streams and all that. So, yeah, just kind of an unfortunate way that things are going. But that's not the only place that's been hit hard, as we have more layoffs here. We had 120 workers being laid off at People Can Fly as they tried to try to keep themselves in good shape financially, because they are a studio that has not really had much in the way of good, successful games. I forget what the one they put out under Square Enix, but yeah, they've apparently had potentially two games. I think one game was canceled, one was scaled down on budget and all that. Yeah, it's one of those studios that I'm sure in Poland that's the money can go a bit further than usual, for a lot of European areas that they could be at. I see what other projects they worked on. I know this just seems to be news, their own news. But yeah, they do a lot of smaller games. Yeah, they did Bulletstorm VR, and the original Bulletstorm. But yeah, this is a shame to see. Um, Hopefully they survive. I believe they have another project with Square Enix that they are working on, but who knows where that goes. We'll see. Let's see. Next up here, 99 people were laid off at Warner Brothers Games Montreal. I believe these were mostly QA people.
Yep.
That were subcontracted from Keywords QA.
Mm-hmm.
With the those affected were invited to choose between being placed on a register to be recalled for work, which may not happen until 2026, or meet with a counselor for help locating another job. And it's like, boy, hey, we might have a job for you in 2 years. It's like, what do you expect them to do until then? So yeah, that's fun there. So that's their QA people. And then the last one we have here of negative layoff news is Deck 9 Games has laid off more staff. No hard numbers were announced, but the CEO, Mark Lyons, posted a message on this, announcing it, saying, "Today we are sad to share the news that we must say goodbye to some of our talented team members. It is an extremely difficult decision and reflects the challenging times many companies in our industry are currently facing. We're extremely grateful to every individual who's dedicated their hard work, passion, and commitment, making transformative entertainment with us." But yeah, no numbers in that. This is after laying off people earlier this year, back in February, where they cut about 20% of their staff, which I imagine this is probably due to finishing up work on the most recent Life is Strange game, where they probably didn't have another project lined up to justify keeping people around. So they just laid off the people they don't necessarily need at the moment, which is sad. So I also hope the only person or people that I wouldn't be sad about are the people that try to put Nazi stuff into the Life is Strange True Colors. Hopefully those people get shown the door and kick the fuck out, but we don't know anything further on that after that report from that was April. It was only April. Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought that was last year at least. But no, that was 7 months ago, 7, 8 months ago. So
yeah, I know.
So yeah, that's your sad news of the week.
Yeah, I mean, layoffs are layoffs. It continues to get worse, and sucks for the people involved. Going back to Warner Brothers Games Montreal, feel bad for them because they haven't been making games they've wanted to be making for like the past decade or so, and they're seeing the bad stuff for it now. Suicide Squad didn't even last a year, so yeah, it just goes to show like we don't know who's making these decisions, but they're clearly not the good ones, and we're seeing people lose their jobs as a result. And the sad part is they never even wanted to work on that anyway. They're working on it because they have to. And then moving on to Tech 9, like we're talking about a developer who's more or less taken over Life is Strange, which is a very important series as far as the impact of several social issues. And again, I haven't played the latest game, but hearing about all this toxicity happening in the office is quite the oxymoron. I mean, like this is a game about like social impact. All of a sudden, we're still seeing stupidity happen from people like the former narrative director. Like you would think the narrative director who handles Life is Strange is going to be like the coolest person, and it appears not. And that's just a sad story to tell. I don't know what the future of this series is, but Square Enix owns it, and I'm sure they'll give it to someone who can do it well. But yeah, it's sad to hear. Still look forward to playing the new game, but it definitely leaves a black mark as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I've had True Colors for a couple of years now. I still have not started it up yet. I'll probably do it at some point before I even get to the new game.
Oh, True Colors is excellent, and it has nothing to do with the current story. So.
No, but it's still It's like, got another one of these to get through. I think I still have 2 to get through. I played a couple episodes of that. Got tripped up on one of the trophies for getting all the collectibles in an episode, and it was bugged out, would never work. So I was like, why the fuck would I play the rest of this?
2 full games or 2 full episodes in True Colors?
No, in Life is Strange 2.
Oh, Life is Strange. Oh, the one about the boys.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've done that segment where you're walking down the road to the gas station multiple times to hope the collectibles there in the store, and it's like, nope. But eventually got that. But yeah. So yeah, that's your negative news. We do have some good news here.
Yep.
The workers at ZeniMax Online Studios have unionized.
Yep.
Let's see, 461 members. The union's being called ZOS United CWA. Has been recognized by Microsoft. That includes their web developers, designers, engineers, and graphic artists. These are all people that work on Elder Scrolls Online. Most of them are in Maryland, but are also located across the U.S. in California, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin. So yeah, they're the latest of the CWA's campaign to organize digital employees. Created unions, which has organized over 6,000 workers since 2020. Yeah, so hopefully they can now start to negotiate a deal with Microsoft and get a fair deal for the work they do. It's not like Microsoft can't afford, but whether they want to, who knows? So yeah, there you go, some good news. And yeah, that's gonna largely do it for the industry news. We do have the Game Awards, and sort of before the Game Awards, all the various like small showcases that we saw before or after the Summer Game Fest. They came back for showcases here around the Game Awards and showcased a bunch of cool little games, indie games mostly. And the Day of the Devs had some really cool stuff there that I saw. This article has a list of all of them. You can go look through them. I think Steam has a section of their site for now that will let you wish list them or whatever. But there are some cool stuff here. There's Faraway, which you're kind of a shooting star that connects these stars into constellations. Kind of a bit of a puzzle thing, but also has procedurally generated stages so that you kind of link them together and create, shapes within shapes, all that kind of stuff. That seems really cool. There's a sequel to Ultimate. I forget what the original game was. See if I can find it here real quick. I think it was Ultimate Horse. Ultimate Chicken Horse, Ultimate Horse Chicken, something like that. It was a fun little party, almost kind of game dev game where you're essentially getting these pieces to put in the level for your group of 4 to platform around and get to the end where you're trying to make it tough so that not everybody gets there because nobody gets points as a result. But if at least one person dies in the process, everybody gets points towards the end. And so they've made a sequel called Ultimate Sheep Raccoon, which is a nonsense game if you don't know that context. Yeah, Ultimate Chicken Horse was their previous game. It's a sequel, but not a direct sequel as far as like being the exact same game. It is a game where everybody's on bikes, so you're creating sort of obstacles and ramps and such to help you get to the end of the stage, but also potentially take out enemies and keep them from doing that. So there's that. That is happening. There's Sleight of Hand. We've seen this announced before. I think one of the Xbox showcases. But they showed off some more of that. That is pretty cool. There's Demon Tides, the sequel to Demon Turf. Sort of a 3D platformer. Really cool looking game that's on the way. Got to see more Kingmakers, which is that ridiculous game where you're a dude from the modern times who somehow teleports back to the past in the medieval times, but keep your guns and power and all that. And you're just able to run over soldiers and all this kind of stuff and shoot them with guns and all kinds of ridiculous shit. that seems really cool. So there's that. There's Recur. That's RECUR. That is a 2D platformer where you are controlling time, almost in kind of the way that like Braid had it, where as you're moving, it's causing time to move forward or backwards based on how you're moving. And so you're trying to use obstacles and such to get around and avoid enemies or explosions or whatever to get around. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's Blueprints, a puzzle game where you're exploring a large mansion in search of the rumored Room 46. And so it seems like they procedurally generate how the house is set up and what kind of puzzles are in there, but that's pretty cool. There's one called Incolatus, Don't Stop Girly Pop. That's essentially what if you take Doom but add a bunch of uh, girl pop kind of nonsense to the screen. Um, so you got like kind of pop music happening all the time as you're killing enemies and all that. So your gun evolves and adds like more scopes and all this kind of stuff that makes it more powerful as you go. So fun times there. There's some more stuff. There's Crescent County, which is kind of like what if you made Kiki's Delivery Service into a modern, slice of life game. Where you're riding on a broom around like it's a motorcycle, racing friends and delivering stuff and doing all that kind of stuff. That's cool. There's a game called PBJ the Musical, where somebody made a weird platformer of sorts that's about what if William Shakespeare created a modern musical about how peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that kind of stuff. And what else is here? There's Incombini, One Store, Many Stories. They're kind of running a Japanese convenience store in the early 90s and the kind of wild stuff that goes there. And like Hyper Light Breaker, I believe, is going to early access in January 14th. So there's some fun stuff there. And there's a game called Tank Head that's out on Steam now, where essentially you are controlling a drone that your human consciousness has been uploaded into that can take over tanks and use those to blow up all the tech vehicles that are running around that are causing destruction and all that kind of stuff, taking out vehicles and bosses and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there. Definitely worth checking that stuff out. But yeah, the main game awards is kind of where we're going to be focusing here. We'll kind of skip through here and see what's interesting. But yeah, they started off in their pre-show with a bit of a big note here with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. That's coming from .mu publishing it and developer of the Game Kitchen, the makers of the Blasphemous games, and very much making this in the vibes of the like original NES games. Loads of side-scrolling action game. Looks like it'll probably be pretty tough and all that, and it looks really cool. So that's happening. Be out sometime next summer. But yeah, it looks really cool, and yeah, Team Ninja is also helping on this one. That'll be on everything pretty much.
Yeah, somehow for me, like this was quite a surprise, which is interesting considering like it's an obvious choice, right? Like we've had a whole bunch of 3D Ninja Gaidens, but with the advent of Dotemu doing games like Streets of Rage 4, it was only a matter of time before they did this one, and I'm glad they are.
Yeah, I was watching it, I was like, I had no clue what was going on because if there's one thing that's been popular in indie spaces, has been 2D side scrolling ninja action games of late. I was like, okay, is this another one of those? And it's like, oh no, this is a Ninja Gaiden Redux kind of game, so that's cool. Yeah, the next one up here, One Move Away, which seems like basically like if you remember the game Unpacking, this seems like that, but focused around packing your stuff into a car for your move between different areas. So yeah, it's a first-person puzzle narrative game where you pack your belongings for another move and embark on a new chapter in life, and it has that same kind of vibes of going through the different eras of these years when you're moving and kind of doing that kind of Tetris, 3D Tetris kind of thing of placing all your stuff in here to fit it all in somehow into your vehicles that I believe changes over the years. So yeah, that's cool looking. That's going to be on PS5, Xbox, PC sometime next year. So there you go on that one.
Yeah, I loved unpacking. So when I saw this, I was pretty excited. The main thing I loved about unpacking is aside from the fact that yeah, it's a cozy game that where you just put stuff away. It was cool seeing how the rooms and stuff evolved over time and seeing that there was some sadness and some brightness to the story. And I'm hoping that this does the same thing, and it looks like it does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that. Then we got a trailer for Slay the Spire, which will be going to early access sometime next year.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like the original, that one's going to be out at some point, just for Steam, but I imagine it'll be on the other consoles at some point as well. Just maybe towards the end of development. Let's see, we got DLC for Dave the Diver. That's called
Mm-hmm.
In the Jungle. As you can guess, takes you to a jungle area where somehow you can probably find your own new blue hole that is near there.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way that they set up all their procedurally generated stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that. That is out next year at some point. There's Thick as Thieves, which is the new game from Warren Spector,
Mm-hmm.
who was director on games like Deus Ex and Thief Deadly Shadows,
Mm-hmm.
as well as some people he worked with on those games.
Yep.
And this is sort of a co-op multiplayer stealth game in that kind of vein, set in the 1910s metropolis filled with magic and intrigue.
Mm.
So yeah, I believe you are fighting over stuff to steal, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that'll be out in 2026 for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. So you can keep an eye out for that one.
Mm.
Then we got Shadow Labyrinth. This is a new Bandai Namco game that seems to be a Metroidy kind of game, but you have the spirit of Pac-Man hanging out with you that then eats enemies and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very dark take on whatever they're doing here, but certainly the most interesting side game they've done with Pac-Man in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a weird thing that we saw. That'll be out next year at some point on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was catching the tail end of this one on my way back from the bathroom. And the guy next to me, I asked him, like, what is this? This looks awesome. He's like, Pac-Man. And I was like, no way. I thought he was trolling. And then I checked my Twitter. I was like, oh, that actually is Pac-Man. So, yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah. So there's that. Then we got Steel Paws. This is a new game from EaseNet, so Yu Suzuki's company, that is being published by Netflix. So, yeah, it's an action adventure game. That'll be out next year at some point for iOS and Android on the Netflix apps. So you can check that out at some point. Then we got date for Tales of the Shire, the Lord of the Rings game. Finally, March 25th. They'll try to get that out then. Might get delayed again. But that's been a game that's been delayed a couple times now.
Yep.
Then we had Stallcraft Operations. This seemed very much like a voxel action game of sorts. Not much detail on that. Then there's Midnight Murder Club for PS5 and and PC. This is a cross-play game. They're having a cross-play beta that I guess should be out now. It'll be out in early access in February. That is a sort of multiplayer first-person shooter that I think you have like a buddy that helps you out with stuff. Or no, this is the different one. This is the one that you're kind of sneaking around in dark areas. You just have a flashlight and a revolver and trying to kill the other enemies. It has proximity chat and all that kind of stuff. So that looks neat. Kind of a small scale like battle royale kind of game. So yeah.
Yeah, this one definitely looks like a pretty fun take. I definitely want to try the beta out when I can. But yeah, for those unfamiliar, this is done by VLAN Studios. This is the developer for Knockout City, and I love that game. Like I'm sad like when it was taken down, but yeah, it's good to see that they're still up and doing unique takes on different ways to play multiplayer live games.
Yeah. And I guess this is being published by Sony, so that's cool for them. So yeah, there's that. Then we got Fiora. This is the new game from the team behind Core Keeper. It basically seems like them taking that idea and then adapting it to like a Terraria style side-scrolling sandbox adventure kind of thing for up to 8 people. So didn't seem like a huge drastic departure. Just kind of like trying a different viewpoint for this kind of game. And it looks pretty neat. That'll be out in early access at some point. They did not give a date for that. Just for PC at the moment. And then yeah, we got the new game from Slow Clap, the makers of Sifu. That is a game of a very similar art style, but it's a soccer game called Rematch. Kind of making seeming like an arcadey soccer game that'll be out summer next year for PS5, Xbox, and PC. It has a lot of the artistry kind of aspects of Sifu done to it. So you have like a lot of moves, it seems like, for getting around other players and setting up, attempts at getting a goal and all that kind of stuff. While you're kind of in this this cool little box that kind of looks like an attempt at adapting Rocket League to soccer itself, versus trying to come up with some other like 3-on-3 arcadey sports kind of game. They have this kind of cool looking game that looks like it should be pretty good from what they are showing here. So yeah, that'll be out sometime next year. Summer of next year, yeah. So there you go. Then they ended the pre-show with a look at Celesta 2. This is a computer RPG style thing. I'd never heard of the first game, but it'll be on early access on Steam next year at some point. And yeah, this is very much one of those kind of tabletop inspired RPGs. Some of those are like Baldur's Gate and all that. So yeah, that looks promising. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of the pre-show. Some nice stuff there, and then they started off the main show with a big announcement. The Witcher 4. Not an announcement that the game exists, because they've been talking about that for the past couple of years. They were working on a new game. And as you would have expected from the way things were going in 3, seems like you're going to be Ciri here as a Witcher. We got a nice little trailer that, weirdly enough, had like the little detail at the beginning of it at the bottom of the screen is like, this is shown on an unannounced NVIDIA, GPU. And it's like, okay, don't know what the fuck that means, but that probably means it's not coming out for a few more years. But yeah, Ciri's at this wedding that this this king's daughter is going to, and that involves some sort of her getting involved with some sort of monster, weird monster, and yeah, Ciri butts in as she's been hired to do so, and she manages to kill it, but the daughter still dies in a different way. So yeah, it definitely has all the vibes of The Witcher, and as you would expect, features Ciri as she has kind of grown up and taken on the role of what she has been trained to do. This kind of thing. So yeah, that'll be cool to see whenever it's done. That could be at any point in the next like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
No one knows when this will come out at all, but I'm pretty sure we can all be pretty patient. I know that Cyberpunk, didn't launch to the best of praise, but they've gone on to eventually fix it, and I'm sure The Witcher 4 will go ahead and get its due praise when it comes as well. It was funny though, like as soon as I saw it, I was like, huh, this is interesting. Let's see who's going to complain. So I go on Twitter, people are complaining, and I'm like, yeah, these people have never played The Witcher 3 before, because she is the obvious choice. So yeah.
Like the whole plot of that game was more or less setting it up that she ends up more or less being Geralt's successor.
Yeah. And I believe he'll be around in the game too.
Yeah, he is supposed to be in it.
So he'll be kind of guiding her along as she needs.
if anything, this definitely motivates me to play Witcher 3 because I never have, and I've bought it 4 times. So looking forward
You
to
got
eventually.
plenty of time.
Yes, I do.
That game is long, but also you've got plenty of time because they're not even talking about platforms or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That was a hell of a trailer, though. I don't care if no gameplay was shown. That was pretty cool to watch, and a great way to kick the show off.
yeah, yeah. You got time to play Witcher 3, probably The Witcher 2, and watch all the shows, the Netflix shows they've made. You got plenty of time to do all that, and probably read the books too.
Yep.
Uh,
And you
so
should
yeah,
read the books because they're really good.
yeah,
Sapkowski is a great writer.
I had no idea they were books.
yeah. They're very much a lot of short stories and such, and then he's done
It's
some
2 volumes
long
of short
novels.
stories, and there's 2 volumes of short stories. I think 6 novels that are like all in a series. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like 10 of them in total, I think.
yeah. Very much like how you may not have known the Game of Thrones was a big book series until you saw the show.
Yep.
So now people are still waiting on the last book.
Mm-hmm. You don't know. You don't have to wait on the last book because the Witcher series is done.
I mean, the Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, but A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, it's people have been waiting on Winds of Winter for over a decade now.
As he does other things too.
Yeah.
And speaking of that guy, we were told there was no more Elden Ring stuff, and then we found out pretty quickly, oh, there is more.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a standalone kind of co-op focused game called Elden Ring Night Rain.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like you can probably have at least 2 other people going. Yeah, 3-player cooperative play. Going into, I don't know if this is a new area, probably is. Doing a lot of more stuff there. They're planning on doing a closed network test
Yep.
that you can register for in February. That they'll be taking signups in January 10th. And it looked a lot faster than Elden Ring typically is.
Mm-hmm.
At least the way they had that there. Maybe they sped it up or something. But those guys look to be running around and jumping up places. And I'm like, where the fuck was that in this game? Because you moved pretty slowly, at least at the start. But yeah, there's more of that then. If you have obsessively played through Elden Ring and the DLC, they've got more. And I think smartly decided not to tie this to the base game again, like the other DLC, the Erd Tree stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because expecting people to play through the game and that DLC to play a third thing is probably a little bit much. Hey, they'll let you buy this outright.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's $60 or something, but we'll have to see. That'll be out this year or next year at some point. So there you go.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but it's clear that From Software is cooking, especially with Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I am happy for all these people who are really excited about this. And it was around this reveal where I was again surfing Twitter because I'm a psycho, and I saw that Cheap Ass Gamer was posting about the Astrobot DLC, and it
Yep.
was like, this game could win Game of the Year 2025, and I was like, take that, Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It was-
Guess what?
Yeah. So yeah, we got news that the PC version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out January 23rd, so people don't have to wait too long there. Then there was a weird trailer for a thing called Catly that's
Yep.
coming to PC and Switch, and people were very confused by it.
Mm.
People are still trying to figure out if it's a real game or not, or if it's some AI bullshit, because the Steam page for it does not make it clear that it's a real thing. People think that the text is all AI generated, and the visuals had a very weird style to it that looked like AI video, so no idea.
Yeah, it's weird. I do like cats, you know. I enjoyed Little Kitty, Big City, and Stray, but this one, like, I have no idea what this is. I don't believe anybody does. And as far as the AI thing, it wouldn't surprise me because I believe it cost $50,000 for 2 minutes on the Game Awards. So yeah, money involved.
That's like the weirdest announcement that people are like, is this a real game? Did they not like vet this to be a real thing? But I'm assuming somebody played something. And there were also influencers like Felicia Day and a couple other streamers and such were doing what seemed like sponsored posts about this. So I don't know. Then we got Project Robot. It seems to be what people are calling this game so far. It's the new game from Gen Design, which is Fumito Ueda's new game, maker
Yep.
of Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian.
Yep.
This very much has those same vibes, though. Instead of it being kind of a lot more naturalistic areas, your dude is climbing up a mech
Yeah.
and somehow pulls the head off of it as this wave of wind and like asteroids and such rocks just kind of pummel the body
Yep.
as you get away. It's just like, all right, mech stuff, cool.
Mhm.
But what the fuck is going on here?
Well, I mean, that's all of Ueda's games, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he's like all of his games do seem to more or less take place in the same universe, but he intentionally makes his world building very vague. So, like, you can definitely tell, like, for example, from the guy's clothing, that this is definitely like supposed to be the same universe because he's got that same clothing style. And the way that the mech is designed definitely is reminiscent of like some of the Colossi in Shadow of the Colossus, and the smooth climbing mechanics are very reminiscent of The Last Guardian.
Yeah.
So it has a touch of all of them. The thing about it using like tech, though, that's actually not as unusual as you would think it is. The Last Guardian, towards the end of it, it goes into like some weird sci-fi places. So the idea of like having, them coming across a robot or something, not too out of the norm for this guy's work. So, but either way, I'm definitely excited to see what comes from it.
Yeah, and much like The Witcher 4, no idea when this will be out. No
Yeah.
expectations of it coming anytime soon.
I mean, it took forever for The Last Guardian to come out, so.
Yeah, and they announced the deal that Epic was publishing their next game like 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any expectation that this is going to be happening anytime soon. Especially when that's your first trailer. That's like, hey, we got a mech. And your guy moves just like the heroes of the other games. So there you go. I'm excited for that. Let's see here. Then we got a trailer from The Outer Worlds 2 that, like the other couple of trailers they've done for that game, are basically very jokey about trailers and such. It's like, oh, from the makers of Knights of the Old Republic 2. And from the makers of, what other sequels they made. And then they also went to Fallout 3, 2, the New Vegas, and all that. And it's like, oh, we're gonna make another sequel here. It's gonna be bigger and better and all that.
Yep.
I guess this is where they essentially announced it's also coming to PS5 because it was just Xbox and PC from the past few announcements, trailers and such. So that's cool. It's part of their multi-platform strategy, and this is a team that's already set up to make it for PS5. So no real problem since the first game was also on PS5. So yeah, unsurprising, but also hopefully this is better than that one because it had a good start and then just kind of petered out as you did the same kind of stuff you have done in the Fallout games. Just less post-apocalyptic stuff going on. More talking to people, skulking around, looking for trash that you can pick up and take for whatever you need. And if you did that, you had tons of bullets and never ran out of ammo for your guns. That kind of stuff. So yeah, that'll be out this year, next year, some point, 2025. That might be a later end of the year. As that team has Avowed coming out early this year or next year. So yeah, that'll be fun to see. And then we got Joseph Fares showing up. Funny enough, cursing a bunch on stage, and then in the trailer for Split Fiction, they censor his cursing there. So I thought that was a funny little juxtaposition there from what he was doing in real life versus what he's doing as the narrator of this trailer, showing off like what this game is, which seems a lot like what let's say a combination of their two previous games.
Yep.
that you have your split screen kind of action here.
Mm-hmm.
The focus of these characters doing two different things. Um, like what was their previous game, their first game called? A Way Out.
Well, actually, before that, it was Brothers. Or well, it was
Well, that wasn't this studio. That was
well,
Joseph Fares with a different team.
yeah, and
Uh,
then he did A Way Out, and then we had It Takes Two.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really include Brothers because Brothers is technically a single player game. So
Well, yeah, that's true.
yeah. So this one kind of features a sci-fi story of sorts where people can go into these weird little bubbles to relive like memory stories or dream stories kind of stuff, and ends up as you might expect, one of these characters is put into a bubble and then somehow the other one gets pushed into it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and the fiction they're experiencing gets split between the two, from this kind of fantastical fantasy universe and this futuristic sci-fi universe, and they kind of go back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes inhabit both at the same time, and you're kind
Yep.
of working together and or fucking each other over, whatever you're willing to do there. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like more of that. That'll be out March 6th, so not too much longer,
Mm.
for PS5, Xbox, and PC. So
Mm.
yeah,
looks like more of that.
this was my game of the show. I obviously It Takes Two was my game of the year back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like this is going to be much in the same vein. What made It Takes Two so special for me was the fact that it genre dove so much, and
Mm-hmm.
even though it jumped into different genres, it was just well polished. However, way you put it, we talk about Astro Bot being very Nintendo polished, and so was It Takes Two. And Hazelight is a indie studio, so it makes it even more impressive. And what I'm looking forward to with this one is um, the amount of potential darkness we'll probably see in the narrative, because we're back to dealing with two adults, whereas with It Takes Two, yeah, you were using two adults, but they were also a married couple,
Mm-hmm.
and it was funny seeing certain situations. My brother and I really enjoyed playing it, and it goes back to I don't know if any of you guys played it, but there was a section with an elephant, which is always going to be ingrained into my mind, and I'm going to wonder if
Mm-hmm.
uh, a split fiction does the same thing. But yeah, this one looks a whole lot of fun. I especially went crazy when the pigs became hot dogs. So yeah, I'm all about it. I'm waiting for this one. And the cool thing, as Hazelight always does, is you only buy one copy of the game and you can still play it online. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like they're doing cross-play, so now you don't even have to have it played on the same system. Um,
Mm.
you can jump in from a PlayStation or Xbox or PC to somebody that's playing on the other versions of the game. So that's a nice little touch there. So yeah, that's a split fiction. Then we got Frag Punk. They announced some more stuff coming to that game, as well as a PS5 version, and that also is launching on March 6th. Been
Mm.
kind of play test or early access kind of mode for a bit. So yeah, that'll be it's a big multiplayer 5v5 first person shooter where you have these cards that you can enact to change the rules of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Giant heads and change how the guns work and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
a neat idea there. Then we got Killing Floor 3 that is out in March. That's more zombie shooter stuff like your
Mm-hmm.
Left 4 Dead kind of style there. Then we got Steel Hunters, which is a cool looking game, basically a free to play mech shooter.
Yeah.
They have playtests now available until the 22nd, so people can kind of play that early for
Mm-hmm.
before it comes out some point next year. Yeah, that's from Wargaming, the team that did World of Tanks and World of Warships and all
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And now they're doing something a bit more out there.
Mm.
Though I'm sure those games have gotten out there as they added more stuff, because that's just how those kind of games work.
Mm-hmm.
They start realistic and then they start adding a bunch of stupid stuff to it
Yep.
that makes them silly. So then we got Black Frost: The Long Dark 2, another game where you are surviving in a harsh winter environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very weird announcement because they announced that early access will begin in 2026, and it's like, why are you announcing this now?
Mm.
Like, I guess you had the funds to just put it out in the game on the Steam, so you can get your wish list and all that stuff going. So I guess, but yeah, the Long Dark I liked a good bit, and that's been getting updates and such for it says here about 10 years now, so that makes about some cool sense. So yeah, they're back and they're doing a new one. That's cool. Then we got Borderlands 4, got a new trailer for that. That is on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC for next year. And it looks like more Borderlands. Hopefully the story's a bit better and less intentionally stupid. In the way that the Borderlands 3 story was just kind of like annoying in a way, annoyingly stupid. They focused on like streamer culture. So Ryu's light on that. So yeah, we'll see. But this could be neat still. As I mentioned, like more weapons and all that kind of shit. So yeah. Then we got Tekken 8 DLC for Clive Rossfield from Final Fantasy 16. Definitely the Final Fantasy character people wanted in Tekken 8. As people have been asking for Tifa, which they broke the #1 rule with Kaz Harada.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't ask me shit."
Yep.
And so they asked for Tifa, and he said, "Fuck you, we're getting Clive from Final Fantasy 16."
Seriously.
So yeah, you've failed the first
If it's
rule.
any consolation, Ben Starr posted a photo of himself dressed up as Tifa. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely knows what's up. So yeah, that'll be out the December 16th in I think you get early access if you have the character pass. General release on the 19th, so there you go. We got a trailer for Splitgate 2, which is the Portal-esque multiplayer first-person shooter. Basically, what if you made multiplayer Halo with portals? And that was very popular for a good bit, and then they wanted to do more, and they're like, actually, we're not going to keep updating this. We're going to do a second game, because I guess tech issues limited what they could do. So they kind of immediately pulled the ripcord on that, so hopefully the sequel will do well for them, because it's not like the free-to-play genre for shooters has gotten harder to break into. So there you go for that. Mecha Break got a new trailer that'll be out in spring 2025 for Xbox and PC. It's a third-person mech shooter action game. So there you go for that. Let's see here. Yeah, we got a pair of Ryu ga Gotoku Studio games announced. The first one, a little bit of a surprise, Virtua Fighter they're working on. A new project for that. They had a Virtua Fighter Direct a couple hours after the show, where they announced all the stuff you would expect. New updates for the recent Virtua Fighter 5 release on PS4. They had some stuff. They got the PC version that's coming out, so that they had a beta for here for a little bit, and then they started going into the weird stuff. They got limited run releases of Virtua Fighter 5 and Virtua Fighter 2 that's Xbox exclusive for some reason. And then they had like, here's legacy people talking about how cool Virtua Fighter is. And that featured the CEO of NVIDIA, who I guess they provided hardware for some of the arcade machines that they did for some of the Virtua Fighters. Then they went to a crown prince of Saudi Arabia, who apparently heads up the Saudi Arabian esports organization. I was like, oh, did you guys not understand the optics of this? And then they had Mark Mann on there, who's a well-known person in the esports scene who helps get fighting sticks and all that out there, as well as help with some games getting development and all that. So, and then they had Yu Suzuki on there, I think, talk about Virtua Fighter, and it's like, okay. But yeah, people were really hung up on the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia there. Not MBS, but one of the other ones, who has done other game stuff. But like, oh, is this game being funded by these people? That people don't want the blood money work on this to taint this game, but okay, there you go.
Yeah.
It just created a whole weird scenario there that they did not need.
Yep.
For the first Virtua Fighter game in 20 years, at least. So There you go.
Unfortunately, the world of esports has to go through Saudi Arabia now because like they host some of the biggest tournaments in the world, and it makes sense for this to be on it. So it's not all that surprising, but yeah, it does suck in that regard. But yeah, this was definitely a nice announcement. I'm a huge fan of Virtua Fighter, going back to part two, and RGG was cooking. We're gonna talk about another game like coming up next, but I don't believe RGG's ever developed a fighting game. I may be wrong, but it just shows how talented they are. They did make the last Monkey Ball game, so yeah, they're definitely on something over there. And yeah, Sega in general is definitely benefiting.
Yeah. So I believe part of it is that they have probably ingested a lot of the former Virtua Fighter people. They probably just had a bunch of them join the team so they could work on this kind of stuff. But this was also the team that was Amusement Vision back in the day.
Yeah.
So they worked on the original Super Monkey Ball games and
Uh-huh.
F-Zero GX on the GameCube and all that. So they've got a variety of skills there for that. So yeah, they've worked on most of the Super Monkey Ball games, it seems. And Binary Domain was them as well. So yeah, Virtua Fighter, I assume they brought in a lot of people that used to work on those games. For that, they announced a new game called Project Sentry. It seemed like it could have been a new Yakuza thing, but yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. It seemed like a dude that was just wandering around drunk in these areas and killing people with weapons, which is definitely not what any of the Yakuza people do. They mostly just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And they run away knowing that they have fucked up. But yeah, this looks like it takes place like about 100 years ago in Japan.
Roughly around 1910, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, looks neat.
Yeah. I don't know what Japan looked like in 1910, and if it looks anything like that, cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just seeing all the violence with this one because a lot of the stuff there was over the top. In Yakuza, you can definitely go and beat people up, but here you're straight up killing people. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Then we got a bit of a surprise. Saber Interactive is working with Universal to make a new Turok Origins.
That is a name I have not heard in a long time.
Yeah, since they last tried to reboot it. Made the fatal mistake of making achievements around team killing for their multiplayer game. So people did that a lot. But yeah, this will be on PS5, Xbox, and PC. No date, so probably still be a ways off. But yeah, they're doing a new one of those.
Yeah, it's interesting. Turok has definitely seen sort of a resurgence, if you want to call it that. They're just as bad as they were back then. But yeah, this one looks interesting. They didn't show very much at all, but it's considering they bought some time. Hopefully, it ends up being a promising project, but who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, this looks like it might be single player focused, but maybe with co-op options as well. And you have like DNA powers.
Yeah.
Weird. So that's how your skills upgrade, I guess. Maybe in a crisis kind of situation, because they say unlock game-changing powers that evolve your suit in real time, which is very much a crisis thing. Hey, you're extracting DNA from fallen foes. That's weird. Getting dinosaur powers in your suit, I guess. Like that's an idea, I guess. Let me see here. Oh, why do I have the wrong one here? Yeah, they announced a new update for Helldivers 2. Called the Omens of Tyranny update. That they have been hinting at this for a while, that there would be a new faction.
Yeah.
And in the way that it works is essentially a zombie faction. Aliens have captured humans, and as they said in the trailer, they've robbed them of their freedom and turned them into zombies, alien zombies, and have sicked them on the Helldivers to take out the humans.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a perfect presentation. They had a guy out in the whole Helldiver suit and doing the salute.
It's not just a guy, it's the guy. He's the guy that you see in the opening cutscene of the game.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is out now. So you now have more factions to deal with
Yeah.
and all that. So yeah, that's cool. Then we got another trailer about Warframe 1999.
Mm-hmm.
That is coming to everything. It should be out now. So you got more Warframe to play.
Mm.
That adds a cool new story and area set back in like uh, some form of the 1990s, where right before I guess Y2K,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the Warframe world, Y2K actually did fuck everything up. I don't know.
Mm.
But it like the rep for the director of Warframe being like, yeah, if you want to know what Warframe's about, we don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
They just added so much to the game. They're like, yeah, it's a mess of stuff. So there you go. There's
Yeah.
a new update for Pow World, Daybreak,
Mm-hmm.
that is out December 23rd. Adds some new pals and weapons and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
a new island 6 times bigger than the previous updates, Sakura Jima. So there you go, more areas to explore. Then we got another surprise, the first of two from Konami or Capcom. A new Onimusha game, Onimusha Way of the Sword, was
Mm-hmm.
announced to be out in 2026 for PS5, Xbox, and PC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a kind of a better action game because those original games were very much like, what if we have like some of the Resident Evil people work on a samurai game with like undead people and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
it worked out pretty well, but still was very much janky in the way that Resident Evil was at that point. Um, so it was like hard for it to do as big as like Resident Evil was, but still gained a solid cult audience there. But
Mm-hmm.
this one, I assume, is going to be a lot better in that respect. So yeah, that is cool to see. Maybe they'll get the other games out at some point.
Yeah,
Mm.
this was definitely awesome. I don't have a whole lot of nostalgia for the original Onimusha series, primarily because when I played it, I think it was what original PlayStation and P2. I just had a hard time, and I think it was because of that Resident Evil jankiness that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I never got a chance to try Warlords. This makes me want to go back to it just to like see if I can find my way into it. But yeah, this one definitely looks fun. When I was watching it, it very much reminded me of the visual aesthetic to Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, which was one of my favorite games this year. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, hopefully, like moving forward, this can be pretty cool. But you know, it's not coming out for a while, but it's definitely something to be excited for.
Yeah. So we
Mm.
got a trailer for the first Berserker,
Mm-hmm.
Kazan, a staple of the Keeley streams. They
Yep.
finally have a date, March 22nd, 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Demo will be out in January 16th. So we'll see more of that. That's a weird game that is part of the universe of Dungeon and Fighter, which is one that you probably don't know anything about because it was one of those very small franchises
Yeah.
that is being revived now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that'll be out soonish in March. As this show kind of just filled up March with a bunch of games now. Yeah, then we followed up with a new Dungeon and Fighter game, one of the first of a handful of Genshin Impact likes. Where I was like, is
Mm-hmm.
this a new update for Genshin Impact, or is this a different thing? And I was like, oh, this is Dungeon and Fighter Arad, ARAD.
Mm.
Yeah, an open world action adventure RPG that's got the same kind of anime art style as Genshin Impact and all that. That'll be coming to consoles, PC, and mobile at some point. No dates or anything on this, so there you go. Some of that is happening. Then we got a new trailer for Dying Light: The Beast, their new
Mm.
standalone expansion for Dying Light 2 that features a protagonist from the first game. That'll be out in the summer. Then they showed off Squid Game Unleashed again, the mobile game that was going to be a Netflix exclusive, but it seems like they are making it available for non-Netflix subscribers. I assume to hopefully feed them into seeing the show and all that on Netflix.
Mm.
So yeah, that'll be out December 17th, so in a couple days. Then we got to some more surprises here. A new Hello Games published title from Ghost Town Games, the makers of the Overcooked series, which you could tell that from the trailer because it very much was that same kind of art style. But yeah, it's called Stage Fright. It's a 2-player cooperative adventure game. Very much seemed like the classical stylings of a like cookies and cream kind of game back in the PS2 days, where you have two characters kind of running around their environments that are completely separated from the other one, but they're hitting buttons to open up doors for the other ones and uh, setting up traps that take out enemies for the other person, that kind of stuff. So yeah, no date on that, but that looks like it's going to be a pretty cool game. Yeah, and then yeah, let's see. Another mobile game, Game of Thrones, King's Road. They made a mobile game that is very much about like the ending part stuff of Game of Thrones. Features Jon Snow and a bunch of the other characters. I assume the original voice actors, but I didn't see much detail on this. But that'll be out next year at some point.
Yeah, it's wild that they're even doing anything with this, especially since the Song of Ice and Fire is already over and they're using the HBO namesakes. Like everybody who's a fan of this knows what's happening to them, so I don't understand why you'd want to, make your family mean anything when your family is not House Lannister or Stark or whatever it may be. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, it's very much that weird story of like, here's this other bastard that was integral to what happened, but you never heard about him, even though he's hanging out with Jon Snow a lot. Just never on the show, conveniently. So yeah, there you go. Then we got Double Dragon Revive, the 3D brawler revival of the Double Dragon IP that they decided to, point their finger to the outfield, saying they're going to hit a home run, and announce the date of October 23rd of next year, instead of just saying it'll be out next year. So they are aiming to be out at that time. So, okay, best of luck. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you wonder what else they can do to be relevant. Like, Double Dragon is obviously important to gaming lore, especially with the beat 'em ups, and there's also its very own bad movie that came out in the early '90s. So, yeah, like, there's definitely some value to that IP, but I wonder what they can even do to really revive it, pun intended. But yeah, this game was actually available to preview for some outlets, and it's interesting that they're already previewing when we're more than a year or well, maybe less than a year, 10 months away from its release. And I don't know, I just find it weird.
Yeah, I'm guessing they just have mostly finished the game, or just going to be spending time polishing and working on other stuff for it. So, yeah, there you go. Then we got a new game here that's a reimagining of a classic game, I guess, called Screamer for PS5, Xbox, and PC. I guess this was a 1995 racing game that I'd never heard of, so this is at least more interesting than that. But yeah, this is very much like a sci-fi racing game of sorts. Yeah, I guess this was an arcade game, so that may be why. So yeah, new arcade racing game, so that's cool. There's not a ton of those, especially ones that look really nice. So yeah, that'll be cool to see at some point. 2026, so that's still a ways off. Then we got an announcement for The Last of Us Part 2 on PC. That'll be out April 3rd. So that's not too far off. We got a new trailer for Den of Thieves for PC. As they're like, yeah, we're still working on it. So there you go. Then we're going to the last handful of announcements here. Sonic Racing Crossworlds, as they say. I assume that name means they're going back to the crossover stuff.
Yeah.
That they ignored for the last game that did not do that well. So
yeah,
they're like, please pay attention to us.
well, we can kind of suss out from all the 3 seconds that they showed us.
Yeah, even Jeff Keighley joked about it. I was like, yep, that was it. So yeah, that's on everything: PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. No date, so I assume they'll announce more details when they have another Sonic Direct, whenever that is. Probably sometime early next year. Then we got a new trailer for Mafia: The Old Country, which shows more story stuff, and as you would expect, a lot of Italian mafia stuff going on. So yeah, that's fun. That'll be out in the summer. No date yet. But yeah, PS5, Xbox, and PC. So there you go. Then we had a nice new looking game called Dispatch. Seems like a narrative adventure game for consoles and PC sometime next year. No real details on that stuff, but it has seems like a bunch of notable voice actors and such. They have the writers and directors of Tales from the Borderlands and The Wolf Among Us working on this, and it's like a superhero workplace comedy game of sorts. So you're working in the offices, sending out heroes to take on various issues that are going on, and all that. And yeah, the two people they focused on with the little announcement they did before the trailer was Laura Bailey, who's done a lot of voice acting, and Aaron Paul, who's not done as much, but has been in a lot of stuff like Breaking Bad and Westworld and Black Mirror. So that's cool. They also got a bunch of other people here: Aaron Yvette, Travis Willingham, Alana Pierce, Lance Gantstopoulos, Joel Haver, Matthew Mercer, Jeffrey Wright, and a bunch of other people. So yeah, nice list of names there, and yeah, seems like it's poised to be a pretty cool game. So yeah, looking forward to that. That's out next year at some point. Then we got the second surprise from Capcom. They're making a new Okami sequel.
Yeah.
That's head up by Hideki Kamiya as part of the newly founded Clover's Studio. Instead of Clover Studio, they said, well, we're the second one, so Clover's.
Yep. That is definitely something he would do.
Yeah, and they also a couple other teams, I believe, working on it as well. M2 and Machine Headworks. Yeah, no platforms or release dates announced for any of this, just that they're starting to work on it. And that's cool. That's cool. That makes sense for Hideki Kamiya to kind of come back to Capcom to form this new Clover studio that is probably working on some of the stuff that they left behind there with Okami and probably some of those other games they worked on. So yeah, that's cool to see, and good for him to kind of get a chance to work on some of his old properties. As he probably got a bit tired of working on stuff with Platinum, kind of working on the same stuff over and over again, and kind of be able to do some new stuff that he's been wanting to do. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stories into this. Like one being, if he left Platinum, they don't have a whole lot left. A lot of the games they've released out of the past several years haven't done great, and they continue to lose talent, and that sucks. The other story is, Okami is a great game, but we also forget, or we didn't really forget, but the original release did not sell well. So the fact that they went back to this is pretty surprising, but it's a welcome surprise at that. It scored really well with critics, and I see no reason why it won't continue to do so because Okami Den on Nintendo DS also scored pretty well. I hope we see a revival for that too. And yeah, I'm really excited for this. There was a lot of Okami Easter eggs in Kunitsugami, and yeah, I'm just happy to see Capcom continue to cook. It's great.
Yeah, I imagine Capcom decided that they needed more variety instead of another Street Fighter thing, another Resident Evil thing, another Dead Rising thing, another Monster Hunter thing. They took a good chance on Dragon's Dogma 2, and that did well. And so why not bring back some of these more classic franchises they've had sitting out there? They've done some remasters on some of them. And in that sense, Okami is on sale for $5 on most of the platforms out there. So that's cheap to get into, as well as they're doing like a bundle, like with Nitsugami, if you have not gotten that yet, as they really haven't put it on sale much on PlayStation or Xbox or anything like that. So yeah, that's cool to see.
Yeah, Kunitsugami was also on Game Pass, so there really isn't much of a reason to put that on sale unless you didn't have Game Pass. But yeah, like prior to the show, Capcom did make sort of a fuss about bringing dormant franchises back, and they have no lack of IP. I'm still waiting for mine. I really enjoyed Beautiful Joe, waiting for Beautiful Joe to come back. JRPG lovers are going to mention Breath of Fire. That's another dormant series that would welcome a return. And yeah, there's a handful of them that we can definitely see back eventually. But Okami and Onimusho are definitely good starts.
Yeah, I imagine if Okami does well, they will definitely do Beautiful Joe at some point. So yeah, let's see. They had a new trailer for Crimson Desert, and that'll be out late 2025. And then they ended on the big announcement of the night, the new Naughty Dog game that
One that, yeah, it's been
Neil
like, it's,
Druckmann's been working on for a few years now.
oh, yeah.
Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet.
Yep, it's been 10 years since they've had a new IP put out.
Yeah.
Like, that's a long ass time. I
Yeah.
was still in my 20s when The Last of Us came out.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been.
Yeah. And this is kind of their love letter to like 80s sci-fi. It's very
Oh,
much like
yeah.
it's been described as like a world where advanced space flight happened in the 80s.
Yep.
And so there's very much a lot of like Akira style
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. There's a lot of Akira
licenses being
reference.
used in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of Akira references in that.
Like her the main character's ship has a Porsche logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
She has Adidas kicks on.
Yep.
There's big. I knew for sure it was a Sony game when you get to the dashboard and it has big fat like Sony, uh, like boombox style like
Mm-hmm.
buttons on here.
Yeah.
And people are thinking this is out in 2027 because she types in the keypad 7202
Yeah.
in it, which is 2027 backwards. But it then pulls out this big ass like CD holder thing that pulls out a Pet Shop Boys CD off of there to play.
Yeah, that whole CD section was 100% taken from Akira. That's like one of the most famous shots in the movie.
Yeah, and then the ship is kind of a Cowboy Bebop thing going on here.
Yeah.
As well as the main character here being a bounty hunter, so they're very much those are like the two anime they're pulling a lot of influence from, but the story is set around this character, Jordan A. Munn, who is a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on Siberia, a distant planet whose communication with the outside world went dark hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she'll be the first person in over 600 years to leave its orbit. So, yeah, has a really nice look to it. They got some big names on the cast here. The main one you're seeing here, I forget what her name is, but she's been in some big stuff recently. And yeah, there's Kumail Nanjiani's on the screen as part of the crew that she's looking for, as well as I forget the guy from not Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul, who's one of the Salamancas, who's the like Tony Dalton or something like that, Tim Dalton. Yeah, that's got some big talent there that they're looking for.
Yeah.
No, it's not Timothy Dalton. But yeah, it's really cool looking. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, definitely. Same here. Honestly, the moment I saw the mocap, I was like, "Yep, that's Naughty Dog." Like it is so clean. It's like I recognize that style. It's 100% Naughty Dog. And yeah, I actually really loved that trailer because there's just so many little tidbits that they leave in there for suggestion. Like, the five aces. Who are the five aces? Why did space travel become so advanced in the mid 80s? What's going on here? There's like it seems to be suggesting like maybe some weird time travel shit going on or something.
Maybe.
Especially like the weird sort of spiral like pattern that comes from that debris from that destroyed moon outside of Simperia. And also just that one little bit at the end was like, what kind of game is this going to be? Because it had like this big sort of imposing like robot type enemy, and you've got like a sword, and it's like, is this going to be like a Souls-like type deal, or Is this going to be more like Uncharted, where it's a bit more of a lighthearted adventure type thing, or what? Because honestly, I'm fine with all of it.
Yeah, I think they're calling it action adventure. So
Yeah, that can literally be anything, though.
yeah, their first kind of one of those in a long time.
Yeah,
But yeah, that seems to imply that Simperia must be some sort of Earth planet,
possibly.
maybe directly Earth.
Maybe it was colonized or something.
It could be like Earth after the climate change has destroyed much of it,
It's possible.
and that's the moon, and sort of humans have gotten off of it, colonized other planets,
Yeah,
but have lost touch with what
yeah,
their origins are, and kind of coming back to this, several hundred years later,
yeah,
kind of thing. So that's
yeah.
potentially an aspect of it that seems neat. So
Yeah. And as you can probably guess, the usual suspects made a bunch of noise about it. But you know what? Fuck them. I'm not going to give them the oxygen.
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny you mentioned that. I thought the same thing, and
And I
when
hate that I have to have that thought.
yeah, the fact that we have to have that thought sucks. And of course, again, me being the psycho that I am, yeah, I saw it all on Twitter, but then I went on YouTube and they did the smart decision and turned comments off. So
Yep.
good on them for that. And then of course it resulted in downvotes, but whatever, F
Who
them.
gives a shit?
Um,
It's Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog has not released a bad game since the first Crash Bandicoot.
they've never released a bad game. Period. I would argue Crash Bandicoot 1 is fine because we didn't know what
No,
platforms would
they
be free.
definitely released a couple of stinkers. You probably don't remember like Way of the Warrior or
No.
Rings of Power or the stuff they did before they signed on with Sony.
Okay.
Trust me, they put out some
Talking
stinkers.
post Sony, but
yeah,
yeah, like when like you, Brandon, as soon as I saw the game even slightly animated, I knew it was Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
I had some slight reservations just because of like the way the protagonist's face moved, and I was like, that's not quite up to Naughty Dog standard, especially with what we've seen lately. Like, going back to The Last of Us Part 2, the spoilers, but like the kiss was perfectly done. You don't see that in any game, even right now. Like until now, The Last of Us is the only game that has gotten the kiss right. And another thing that I noticed, which absolutely was Naughty Dog caliber, was there was this short moment where the protagonist puts a jacket on, and it's a
Yep.
leather bomber, and I was like, I know that's hard to do. Normally, you would just focus the camera on something else, but they decided to fully animate it, and yeah, like that's something you don't even see on Pixar movies. So like it was definitely awesome to see. My only reservations are, one, I'm not a huge fan of space games, but I'm just weird in that regard. So we'll see there. Two, I don't know if it was really necessary to have all those branding. Whether it be Porsche or Adidas. I'm hoping like it's there for a reason aside from world building. But yeah, it was all pretty cool to see. And like you at the end, like I'm curious about what this game ends up being, because the protagonist had quite the imposing digital sword there. Like it was both like a Buster Blade with some lightsaber stuff going on, and I'm like, all right, if this ends up being a hack and slash, that can be interesting, because I don't remember if any of the games Naughty Dog released as of late has had any sort of sword play.
Nope.
So that
They
should
have
be
not.
interesting to see. Hell, if I know, like it might even be a turn-based RPG. I don't know, but like
That'd be fun.
yeah, like also like there were a lot of rumors that their next game would be something fantastical, and I wouldn't even count that out. Like they're in space, right? They can go to any planet they want. They can go to any world they want, and something can happen. And yeah, I cannot wait to see more. Like you said, it's been more than a decade since we've seen a new IP, and this has been in development since the head of the pandemic. They're saying 2020 in this article.
Yep,
So
they said started work on it in 2020. So
yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully, it's a
definitely.
PS5 game.
Yeah. Also, just for anybody who's like wanting a little bit of a titter, a little bit of a laugh, there's a couple of pictures going around where Kim Hyung Tae, the guy behind Stellar Blade, he was at the Game Awards and he's been seen hanging around with Neil Druckmann. So it's basically like the 9/11 for Chuds. I hate gamers in 2024.
Yeah. Because the Tati Gabrielle, who's the main character, has getting some harassment as a result of this, which is
Yep.
stupid. But yeah, if you look at the games that were announced in this show, very much there's nobody really cowing away from having games with female leads or non-white leads. As you had Intergalactic, you had The Witcher 3, Stage Fright, a bunch of games here that did not go shy away from that stuff in any way. That kind of shows that those people are ineffectual.
Yeah.
The industry is not worried about that stuff. Outside of probably some rare cases, but most people are just making the things they want to make and not worrying about what these people do because their narrative is just changing as rapidly as they form it because it's not based on any actual beliefs. It's just what gets most engagement because that's how they get paid on Twitter and YouTube and all that. It's about being as annoying as possible and getting as much engagement as possible. So those people are losing as far as getting games out there that don't feature anybody but white male leads. So yeah, that's been at least the one nice thing out of all that. But yeah, the Game Awards did a good job of kind of pulling together a really cool slate of announcements and a lot of cool games won awards. You had Astro Bot winning the main Game of the Year award as well as a number of others. Metaphor Fantasia won a few awards. Bellatra won a few awards. As we expected, like the most anticipated went to GTA 6 because the greater gaming sphere is excited for there to be more than one trailer for that and an actual release date. That we've had, we got one trailer like a year ago, and that's been it as far as we've seen out of that game, outside of the stuff that was leaked. But yeah, it's Jeff Keighley did a pretty good job here. They had some good bits. They had a Game Changer award they had featuring a man named Amir, who has been running a well done sort of resource for people that have been laid off for finding new jobs and getting coaching and all that to help them hopefully find some new work, whether it's inside the industry or outside. That was a pretty good moment there, though. Him being an employee at Tencent doesn't really undermine any of that, because the work he's doing is seemingly genuine, and even if it's just a spreadsheet, that's more work going into it beyond that. Still more than was being done before, unfortunately, and it shouldn't require somebody to have to do that much work. But unfortunately, that's kind of where the job sphere is at this point. It's just a mess of, opportunities all over the place with more people that would like to get those jobs than there are spaces available for them. And unfortunately, it took somebody to set up a spreadsheet that ballooned into a website and a community that has helped people get jobs and all that. So yeah, that's that was a cool moment to see.
Yeah, being there and just watching it in general, that was definitely my highlight and my favorite moment of the Game Awards. As you mentioned, Chris, like Jeff did a pretty good job this year, in my opinion. This, as far as like the balance of announcements, the way things were celebrated, and just the balance of the show and flow of the show, I thought this was the best Game Awards they've ever done since 2018. And the only reason why I liked 2018 was because of game announcements, not necessarily because of the way the industry was celebrated. And I feel like this one had the proper balance. Being there, yes, I did spend $200 on the ticket, but the friends I've made, the people that I've met who I've been able to admire for a number of years before and after the show was definitely a value that I can't take away. And yeah, just going back to Amir Satbot real quick, I'm a broken record with this. I was laid off in March, and it took me 6 months to find another opportunity. And while this opportunity wasn't on Amir's spreadsheet or anybody in his community. The only reason why I found it was because somebody I met in the community responded to that post on LinkedIn. If I was never connected to this person, I wouldn't have ever found it. So, I definitely owe this community a lot. They have definitely been there for me in very dark times. Like if you follow me on LinkedIn, like I was just like, yeah, these last 6 months have been absolutely rough, and I'm barely recovering from it now. And yeah, like I said, I'm a very active member of his community. I am a resume reviewer. I have helped several people improve their resumes, get interviews, and eventually get hired. Like one person I met was somebody who has been wanting to crack her way into the industry for real for a while. And the reason why I say for real is because she worked retail at GameStop. Say what you want about that being a real opportunity in the industry, but now she's working for an indie developer, and like it's definitely awesome to see. So yeah, when I see those tweets or social posts about him only doing a spreadsheet, like it goes beyond that. It goes to his community, it goes to his supporters, and yeah, he's never accepted a dollar for anything that he's done. And again, like, yeah, he works at Tencent, and right before that, he was working at Amazon. And yeah, both of these aren't really known as like good guys in any sort of industry, but they've also gone over the fact that this is all stuff that he's done on his own time. He goes to events like Games Beat, for purposes of just trying to help people crack their way into the industry because it's hard. Like there are less jobs in the industry than there are actors in Hollywood, and at the same time, they are paid nowhere near as much. So there's a lot of disrespect and hard times going on, but I think this Game Awards did enough to not only celebrate the industry but acknowledge what's going on, both on the inside and outside. I don't know what you can do to really make these layoffs better, but just that spreadsheet, if you will, is already more than most people have already provided.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of weird criticism being like, well, that room's full of the people that have done those layoffs, and it's like, yeah, there's nothing they could do to get better on that kind of stuff. That's just the nature of the way that award shows are done.
And it really wasn't. Most of that room are either paid attendees or developers. The developers have nothing to do with the high or to do with the cutting process. And yeah, it's just tough to see. I don't know if like other than Randy Pitchford, I don't know if any CEO is actually in that building.
There were the Microsoft people there. They were in the front row.
Yeah.
And all that. And some others like that. But yeah, it's like that's a thing that's always going to be a weird aspect of it. Because that's just the way that corporate layoff culture is at the moment, is that those people are worth laying off for them, because none of the execs ever suffer any real consequences for their poor decisions. It's just a matter of the way that they handle all that stuff. But yeah, there was a weird fun moment at the very beginning where Jeff was paying homage to Ken Kutaragi, and somehow he thought he was supposed to go up on stage, so he like got up and walked over to the guys that were manning the security, and he saw him walk over, and like somebody must have told him like, no, you weren't supposed to go up. It was like, oh, there's some weird crossed wires there. And the way that Jeff was like mentioning him was also like, oh yeah, you can come up and say something. And I was like, no, that did not seem to be what was going on. I thought they were gonna have like another like, here's like the guys that helped set up PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo. Maybe do another cool moment there, and I was like, nope. You're just saying, hey, we got Ken Kutaragi here to sit there for a while, for the 3.5 hours, whatever that show was. So, yeah, but yeah, that's the Game Awards. A lot of cool stuff to look forward to for the next couple of years here. A lot of stuff here that's is not coming out even next year. For as weird as that is to still be doing, but yeah, we got a lot of stuff to look forward to for 2025, and that'll be fun to see more details on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to end the show. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to Brandon and Dannon for joining.
Always.
We'll be back next week with a new slate of news and shows as we get our last pre-Christmas show in. Luckily, like this year, we'll be able to do some Not necessarily have to have a direct break for the podcast, though. We might do a show that's just Game of the Year stuff there and put that out at the same time as the list goes and all that. I think that'll be our focus on here for that. But yeah, the Christmas and New Year's are in the middle of the week, so the weekends are free to do whatever for most of us. So yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, for let friends and family know, they should check it out and select strangers. That also enjoy developers getting to announce cool games.
Yeah, seriously.
And hate the execs that try to make sure that devs can't do cool things. So yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you guys.